So we talk about the process of evolution in more detail in my natural science class, but this is a good place in the curriculum to focus in on human evolution. As we talk about the ancient world, oftentimes texts that deal with the ancient world will begin with the Stone Age and the Paleolithic period and what they call the hominids, because most people today in the world believe that we evolved from some kind of primitive ancestors. I don't personally, and I don't really want you to believe that, but I do want you to know about it. Okay, so I know this may be uncomfortable to talk about things we don't believe, but get used to it because we'll do that quite a bit in education. Human evolution. According to evolutionists, the story begins with what they call the lemurs. This is the mouse lemur. And one of the arguments is, how did man begin to take on human characteristics, things that we would distinguish as being human, such as having eyes in the front of our face instead of on the side of our face, and the opposable thumbs, to where we can grasp things, and upright walking, those kind of things. So when you look at what identifies us as human, how did they come into being? And so they look at the lemur, and a lot of attention is placed upon the lemur. And you can see that the lemur is clasping onto a stem of some kind, and that's appropriate because in the scenarios of evolutionists, generally these features have developed in learning how to climb trees, because you need opposable thumbs, and you need eyes in front of your face where your field of view overlaps so you can judge depth. So for instance, let's say that you have a group of rodents, like little mice running on the ground, and one year you have a very dry season, and all the grass and all the ground foliage is dried up, and so you have these mice that are going to die off because there's not enough food. However, there was one group of mice, or one mouse, who had a thumb or a claw that was slightly adjusted to where it was opposing to the other claws. It's a mutant. When people saw him, they'd make fun of him at high school because he has these strange-looking claws. But this year, because all the grass is dying, he can take that claw that's on the side, and that allows him to grab hold of the tree and move up to where he can get up to the leaves, and he can eat the leaves. And so he doesn't die. And everybody else dies off but him, because he has opposable thumbs, or sort of opposable thumbs. He can eat the leaves, and he takes his favorite girlfriend up with him and gives her leaves, and so they have babies. And since it's a mutation, it's some mistake that's happened in the genetic code, he has that mistake, and so he passes it on to his offspring. So now you have a whole family full of little creatures that have those strange claws that stick out the side that can oppose the other claws, and they can all climb trees. So they climb up the trees and they eat the leaves. Even after the grass returns, they can still live now in the trees because they have that mutation, which is favorable, allows them to do that. Their eyes are still on the side of their heads, and so they're still seeing two distinct fields of views. At least that's what they say. I don't know how they know that. But it makes sense. If you have an eye on this side of your head and an eye on this side, they're not going to overlap. I've been told that when a chicken is looking at you, straight at you, they really can't see you. It's like if I'm a chicken and I'm looking at you, I've got eyes here, so I'm looking there and there, but I'm not looking here. It's when the chicken does this. But you have to be careful because now he's looking at you, looking at you, not you, because I on the side. Looking there and looking there, but I'm not looking here. You see what I'm talking about? So if you have eyes on the side of your head, you're seeing two distinct views. And so if you have a mutation that brings your eyes around to the front of your head, you begin to look more human, and that field of view overlaps, like looking through binoculars when you're turning them, that overlaps, and that creates a sense of depth. So according to evolutionists, as these lemurs climbed up in the trees, the proto-lemurs, they're seeing two different views, and so they're trying to judge how far it is from this tree to the next tree. And so they turn their head this way and say, I think it's about 5 feet, maybe 10 feet. Maybe 15, maybe 10. And they're trying to judge the distance, and so they jump, and they don't jump far enough, and they kill themselves. And so there's another mutant that has eyes that have moved around close to the front. The field of view begins to overlap, And so they're able to judge, yes, that's 10 feet. And so they can jump the right distance from tree to tree. And so through time, as you have these selective pressures, you have opposable thumbs, you have eyes that move around the front of your face. The fact that you're not on the ground anymore means you don't need a long olfactory bulb inside of your nose. And so the nose begins to flatten, opposable thumbs, eyes in the front of the face, nose begins to flatten. You're beginning to move toward a more human-looking face. And so they believe the lemurs are actually the beginning of that. The mouse lemurs are showing us that trend. And so an evolutionist might say that we evolved from lemurs, but that's not correct, right? They cannot say that we evolved from lemurs, even though they'll try.
I had a question. Say that, they say that we evolved from lemurs. How come lemurs still exist if not all of them transferred?
Right. That's the point you want to make. If they say that we have evolved from lemurs, then you would ask the question, then why are there still lemurs?
And all those things had to be present at the same time for them to survive. You can't just have not a depth perception but having thumbs and survive in a tree.
Well, you have to be careful because evolutionists generally are gradualists. So they mean it's happening gradually. And so you could say, well, opposable thumbs wouldn't be much help unless you had stereoscopic vision, because then you would be able to see. But the evolution would say, well, it's enough help to get them into the trees. Even a thumb that wasn't on the side, but just here, even though it's like when you ever, like the other day I jammed my thumb and I had to tape my fingers. And I couldn't pull my thumb around because I had it taped. And someone would say, wow, that's dysfunctional. And it was, but I could still hold stuff. I couldn't do it as well as I normally do, but I could still do something. So you have to be careful to try to push the argument to the extreme, because they see it as being gradual. So it just has to have a little bit of selective advantage. That would be enough to give them a favorable leg up, so to speak, or thumb up, in this case, into the tree. Well, it would work in stages. It's just whenever you get to, it's not like the giraffe's neck suddenly appeared overnight, but there was a mutation that caused the neck to become a little bit longer, then a little bit longer, a little bit longer. A better argument with the giraffe is we're the intermediates, the missing links, because they should be part of the rock record. It's crazy, yeah, and I think that may be your argument, what they call irreducible complexity, where you get to the point where you can't figure out how it could have developed, how it could have functioned. And they would say that's an argument from incredulity. And that if they say that there is a way, we just haven't discovered it yet, then that's generally where the argument stops, but you'll want to point out before you leave that that's faith, if they can't figure it out. At least to acknowledge that you have faith in evolution, that you will eventually figure it out, but you haven't figured it out yet. But anyway, the gradualism brings us from one point to the next, to the next, to the next, and eventually would lead to the creatures that we see today. But if an evolutionist says that we evolved from lemurs, don't allow them to say that, because we didn't evolve from lemurs, because they're still around. If we evolved from them, then they would be us, right? You see what I'm saying? And so force them to say what evolutionists actually believe, and that is that we evolved from lemur-like common ancestors, because that's really what they mean. Because when they say we evolved from lemur-like common ancestors, then the question becomes, where are they? And why didn't the lemurs change? And they have answers to that too, but at least make them answer it. All right? So anyway, there's the opposable thumb of a lemur. They actually have opposable big toes. Also, mouse lemurs.